YouTube? It's your boy Frankie J, back again with another episode of the Fantasy Blitz Show. And as y'all can see from the title, we're about to do a week 2 recap. So I'm just going to name the top 5 of each position in a half PPR format. So remember, it is half PPR, so some of these scoring might be a little different from full point PPR versus standard. Alright, so let's go take a look. So for quarterbacks of week 2, the top 5, we had coming in at number 1, Lamar Jackson with 42.6 points. If any of y'all watched that game was a shit show for Baltimore, but they had a huge lead in the beginning, and obviously Miami came back, but it didn't affect Lamar Jackson's points. 42.6 makes him quarterback 1. Now for quarterback 2, we got Tua Tagovailoa. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Sounds about right. He had 40.9. Once again, that game was bananas. So they were just throwing left and right. And obviously Tua had no choice, being down big early. Had to throw the ball. So ended up getting him 40.9 points. The man had 6 touchdowns. God damn. Coming in at 3, we got Jalen Hurts. Now, my man had 34 points. Huge game against Minnesota, sorry. And they pretty much shut down Minnesota. I don't know what they were doing that Monday night game, but it was sad to see. And Jalen Hurts was running amok on them, so 34 points at your QB number 3. Coming in at number 4, we got Josh Allen with 29.7. I feel like this is going to be a regular with Josh Allen. He's always going to be top 5 each week, unless the matchup or him bearing injury, God forbid. But Josh Allen's going to do Josh Allen. And coming in at number 5, we got Carson Wentz again in the top 5. He had 28.8 points. I don't know what's up with this kid, but he might be back to that Philly swag he used to have before. Obviously, he got hurt and did nothing. But I did call this in the offseason that Carson Wentz could be a guy that actually might blow up this year. Granted, it's only 2 weeks. Matchup's not so crazy, but still, the man is on the right track, being top 5 quarterbacks twice. Now, for the running back position, coming in at number 1, we got Nick Chubb, 30.8 fantasy points. Nick Chubb is just going to do Nick Chubb. I think at this point, he's like the safest RB out of all of them. Kind of upset I didn't get him in any of my leagues. I've kept him in my one league for 3 years straight and did not even touch him this year, and kind of regretting that. But Nick Chubb, behind that running offensive line, he's going to do things. Coming at number 2, we got Aaron Jones with 30.5. Now, the man had, 2-3 touchdowns? Kind of upsetting for anybody with A.J. Dillon on their team, a.k.a. me. I'm like, A.J. Dillon couldn't get one of them? Fucking Aaron Jones got to get 2-3 of them? Come on, man. But 30.5, we knew Aaron Jones in this offseason was actually going to be heavily involved in the passing aspect of it, everything on the offense, and 2 of those touchdowns came from passes. Granted, it might have been a quick shovel pass in front of him, but still a touchdown. Coming in at number 3, Tony Pollard. What happened to your boy Zeke? What happened? I don't know. I mean, everybody was saying this, riding around that Tony Pollard train, saying, they're going to split carries, and there's going to be some time where Pollard's going to just pull ahead. And is it too early to say that he is? I think so, but he had a good game with 17.8 fantasy points. Not a huge game, but still put him in at running back 3. Now, coming at 4, we got Damien Harris. Now, Damien Harris also had a couple touchdowns, 15.7 fantasy points. Now, that matchup, well, I can't even say that matchup. That game was boring as fuck. I don't know if anybody watched it. That game was boring. I didn't even bother even betting or taking a glimpse at it or whatever. But 15.7 coming in at RB number 4 kind of shows you that this week for running backs was not a good week. We had the top 2 with 30 and then drops down from 30 to 17 points. So not a crazy week for running backs. Coming in at RB number 5, we got DeAndre Swift, 15.7. Now, I'll admit it. I wasn't okay with drafting DeAndre Swift, and now this man is making me shut up. I can't even say nothing bad about him. I mean, it's the Detroit Lions. We knew, like, they're going to have some growing pains, but those young pieces they got in there are actually doing their things. Now, at the wide receiver position, coming in at wide receiver 1, we got Stephon Diggs, 38.8. What my man say? I'm him. I'm pretty sure that's a shot at what's his name, Jalen Ramsey, because the week before Jalen Ramsey was shitting all over him, and then week 2 the Rams play, don't even remember who they play, and Jalen Ramsey gets all hyped because he got the end game interception, saying that he's him, but Stephon Diggs was like, nah, I'm him. I did work to you week 1, and in week 2, I just killed it. Wide receiver 1, Stephon Diggs, 38.8 fantasy points. Coming at number 2, we got Tyreek Hill. He had 36.5 fantasy points. That game, that's all I can say. That game, the game script for that game for Miami was throw the hell out of the ball, and it worked. Coming in at wide receiver 3, we got Amon-Ra St. Brown. Now, I think he's about to be the wide receiver king. That boy is a monster. He had 34.9 fantasy points. That boy is a beast. He torched that defense up. But can he maintain it steadily? We'll see. I think he can, but we'll see. Coming at wide receiver number 4, we got Jalen Waddle with 34.6 fantasy points. How many times I have to repeat it? That game script out of this world. Coming in at wide receiver 5, we got Cooper Kupp with 26.3 fantasy points. I mean, it's not like a surprise that Cooper Kupp was top 5 wide receivers. I think he's going to do that every week. Granted, he only had 26 versus the top 4 all had 30-plus points. So, I mean, Allen Robinson did catch the touchdown, so took a little bit away from Cooper Kupp, but he still did his thing with 26. So, now going into the tight ends, we got Mark Andrews. All right, Mark Andrews at tight end number 1 with 21.2 fantasy points. Week 1, not so much. Week 2, we remembered who the hell he was. That game, obviously, Baltimore built a crazy lead, and Mark Andrews was part of that. So 21.2, tight end number 1. Sounds about right. Coming in at tight end number 2, we've got Darren Waller. Darren Waller with 14 fantasy points. Now that game was, I can't even say just that game. All of week 2 was just crazy. Comebacks. I think there was at least four games, like straight comebacks. Teams down bad, and they all just came back and won. So, but Darren Waller did his thing with 14 fantasy points at tight end number 2. I mean, for a tight end, 14, I feel like even 9 points for a tight end is great. So 14, that's doing his thing. Tight end number 3, we got Irv Smith. Fuck him. Man got 12.1 fantasy points. Now, after week 1, he had 1 target, didn't catch it, and did nothing else the rest of the game. So in my 1 league, I dropped him. I had no choice. I needed a better tight end. I'm not going to plug him in again for another week, and he gets me another 0, another donut. Nah, I can't do that. And then obviously when I bench him, that's when he decides to play and gets a fucking touchdown. 12.1 fantasy points. Tight end number 3, fuck you, Irv Smith. Coming in at tight end number 4, we got Mike Gasecki. Now, this one is a hot one for me. So my man had 12.1 fantasy points, tied with Irv Smith, sorry. And I was reading all this, watching analysts say, don't start him, he might as well be a drop, blah, 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 blah. He had a touchdown that game, 12.1 fantasy points. Now, is that something we're going to see often? No. Would I drop him? I don't know. Week 1, he didn't do horrible. Did better than Irv Smith, I'll tell you that much. But I don't think I would drop him. Maybe, depending on the matchup, I would have to, see if I start him or not. But game scripting, if Miami's ever down bad, Mike Gasecki could be part of that offense. And coming at tight end number 5, we got Zach Ertz with 11.5 fantasy points. I wanted him in so many of my drafts, but the way I drafted, there was no way that was going to happen. So, I'm having tight end trouble, and I didn't get a piece of any of those guys besides Irv Smith, and I dropped them. So forget that. Now for the defense, we got Tampa Bay with 26 fantasy points. Now they look like they're the shit on defense. I'm pretty sure they're probably like top 3 right now in defense. There's nothing much to say. That game against New Orleans, that was a horrible game in the beginning until Tampa Bay decided to finally score, and then the defensive pick six at the end of the game helped them out even more on defense. So self-explanatory about Tampa Bay. Now, defense number 2, we got Jacksonville. 21 fantasy points. Completely shut out the Colts. I wanted to cry. I had Matt Ryan in 2 of my leagues, and he did nothing. I don't understand what it is with the Colts when they go down to Jacksonville. They can't do shit. They literally did nothing. Nothing. So, Jacksonville with 21 fantasy points coming in at defense number 2. Coming in at 3, we got Buffalo defense with 20 fantasy points. I mean, that defense is phenomenal. I'm about to say it right now. I'm pretty sure Buffalo is probably going to be a team that ends up going to the Super Bowl. I don't see a team that's beating them right now. Coming in at defense number 4, we got Atlanta with 16 points. Atlanta's defense was, they were kicking up a bit. Are they going to do that every week? Hell no. But the matchup played out to their advantage. And defense number 5, we got San Fran with 15 points. They didn't play anybody crazy, So, I'm pretty sure it was Geno, but whatever the case was, 15 points for San Fran's defense. I'm pretty sure they could be a steady like 6 to 8 points every week for you, and then maybe get lucky and get a week like this where they had 15 points on defense. Now, let's take a look at some of the players that are on my radar after week 2. Now, these are just some players that, I may have, I may not have, or are definitely probably not on the waiver wire, but these players are on my radar, so maybe I might want to trade for them, or maybe I want to, sell high, trade them away while they're at their peak, because maybe they might decline, but let's just talk about them. So my first one is Leonard Fournette. Now I have him, I think 2 leagues. He hasn't done much, but his volume is there. He hasn't had a TD yet. I think they're coming, but the volume is completely there for him. He was RB28 this week. He had 24 rushing attempts. Now that's a huge versus all the other running backs on the team. That was a huge difference between him versus Rashad White or whoever the other guy's name is. And he's actually getting targeted. So he had 9 targets that game. So, the volume's there. So I think eventually it's just going to, it's going to come together and Leonard Fournette's going to be that guy again. For my next one, I got Jeff Wilson Jr. Now, obviously, it's a bummer on what happened to Elijah Mitchell, but Jeff Wilson's about to take over that. The news that Tyrion Davis-Price, the rookie they drafted, is also out. So now they're getting people from the practice squad or whatever the case may be. But now that RB by committee might not be there because they don't have enough depth at running backs if they all keep going down. So Jeff Wilson definitely good. For me, he was RB14, which was, right outside of the top 10, but he had 18 rushing attempts for 84 yards. So he had a decent game. But I feel like he'd be a steady flex play for you if you keep him. And what else do I have? I have Christian Kirk. He was wide receiver number 7. Another guy I think you might want to trade for, only because I don't see their schedule getting too crazy towards the end of the season. And if Trevor Lawrence and them boys can keep it up, then Christian Kirk could be a top tight end at the end. Top 10 wide receiver at the end of the season. So he did have 2 touchdowns off of 6 receptions last game. So that's why he had a great game. But he had, for week 1, week 2, scored double digits in fantasy points each of those games. So he's a steady wide receiver 2 for you. I'm not going to lie. Is that offense for real? we'll just have to see. Next one on my radar is Garrett Wilson, my boy, the Jets. Let's go. That boy was a monster. Flacco actually was out there looking great. I don't know what the hell that's about, but Garrett Wilson finished at wide receiver 6 last week. He had 14 targets, 14. So you know Flacco was looking for that boy. All right, he had 8 catches and had 102 yards. So that boy had a field day with a touchdown. So Garrett Wilson definitely on my radar. And last but not least on my radar, I got Gerald Everett. Now, I did say something about him last week. He had a great game. Scored me 10 fantasy points in half PPR. Now, my thing is just, Keenan Allen is gone, and obviously Keenan Allen is going to come back. So what does that mean for Everett? I think Everett's still going to be heavily involved in that pass play. Justin Herbert taking that injury to the ribs. If he doesn't play, they're going to have to put in Chase Daniels. And Chase Daniels, I don't think he's got an arm. Actually, I don't think. I know for sure he don't got an arm like Herbert. So maybe a lot of checkdowns. So Eckler's probably a big play for next week. I feel like Everett too. He did finish tight end 11 with 10 targets. That was just as many targets as Mike Williams. All right, they both had 10 targets. 6 catches with 71 yards. Now, if he had a touchdown, that would have he would have blew it out the water. He would definitely have been one of the top 5 tight ends last week. But he didn't. But I feel like touchdowns are coming his way. And that's all I got for y'all today. Appreciate the love. Thank y'all for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. I'm your boy Frankie J. It's the Fantasy Blitz Show. We out. Peace.